Well, thank you. I always like when I hear somebody's going to follow the science. That's very important to me. Mr. Chairman, do I have a couple more minutes? All right.
You do.
Thank you. This question's for Mr. Uhlmann. I wanted to ask you about the applicability of EPA's Clean Air Act regulations for those Arizonans who convert their street vehicles into dedicated race vehicles. This is something that my wife, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, not with cars, but with motorcycles, would do on occasion. She used to race motorcycles around a track. So this is an issue that resonates with her. You know, it's a time-honored pastime for many Americans, amateur racing. We have a street in Tucson, a mile north of where Gabby and I live, called Speedway. And it's called Speedway for a reason, because that's where a lot of amateur racing used to happen. Now it's on tracks. And these racetracks and auto repair manufacturers across the country rely on this. Yet, as I'm sure you know, since 2015, EPA has maintained that modifying a vehicle's emissions system is a violation of the Clean Air Act, even if the vehicle is solely used for the purpose of amateur racing. I support efforts to clarify the status of amateur racing under the Clean Air Act without compromising the underlying statute. And I'm pleased to join today with my colleagues, Senators Burr, Tester, and Ernst, to introduce the Recognizing the Protection of Motorsports Act. So, Mr. Uhlmann, I'm pleased that EPA has announced that the Office of Enforcement and Compliance Assurance will focus on stopping aftermarket defeat devices, which cause street vehicles to violate emissions standards. How would you categorize the emissions risk posed by these defeat devices, and how do those emissions compare to the emissions created by amateur racing vehicles?
Well, thank you so much for the question, Senator, and for your leadership and your wife's leadership in the great state of Arizona. I had the privilege of serving as the counselor to the compliance monitor who was appointed by the Justice Department and EPA after the Volkswagen diesel scandal. And that's just, probably one of the most troubling examples of environmental crime in the 30 years that I've been working on these issues. I mean, a company, one of the largest companies in the world, that changed the software on its vehicles so that when they were out in the street, they were polluting. When they were being tested, they seemed to be in compliance. And it's the sort of case study of what a defeat device is. It was an appropriate case, I think, quite clearly for the Justice Department to prosecute. As I said, I was honored to serve on the compliance team after the fact, trying to help Volkswagen develop ethics, integrity, and sustainability programs so that they could be environmental leaders rather than environmental criminals. I have to confess, I don't know the issue that you're raising, and so I would say that if I'm confirmed for this role, I'd be happy to meet with you once I have an opportunity to be briefed by the career staff. The problem with defeat devices, of course, Volkswagen tells us, is very significant, with significant human health impacts. Not quite ready, even though I'm a huge sports fan, to speak to the issue that you've raised today.
Yeah, when we consider just the numbers, you're talking small number of vehicles, and this is, what folks across the country, do as their hobby, their activity, and it doesn't add up to much. So I appreciate you're willing to work with me and my office so we can clarify the applicability of the Clean Air Act to amateur racers. Thank you, and thank you for the additional time, Mr. Chairman.